Hey, and welcome to CBR. As an extra-dimensional fear entity tied to the macroverse, Pennywise the Clown isn't that far from the cosmic threats that Doctor Strange usually fights. Stephen Strange is no stranger to entities that consume energy to keep living. Villains like Nightmare and Shumagorath are among the many beings that could easily try to go through his mental defenses to take him down. Fortunately, he has an arsenal of magic abilities that give him an advantage in this kind of fight. Strange was once an arrogant but prolific surgeon. He could do what most of his patients considered miracles. However, it wasn't until he was in an accident that crippled his hands that he had to find the true meaning of that word. Strange took off to Tibet to try and heal his hands. It was here that Doctor Strange tapped into the magical potential of his abilities. For years, Strange trained with the Ancient One. Born a humble farmer, this master conquered the mystic arts and became the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth. Then, he decided to share it with other apprentices like Stephen. Under the Ancient One's wing, Strange became capable of controlling energies that are beyond human understanding. More specifically, he became knowledgeable on all topics of sorcery. His patrons are Vishanti, a group of godlike entities, omnipotent Oshur, Hori-Hogoth, and the all-seeing Agamotto. Thanks to the Vishanti, Strange got access to magic. Plain and simple. What does this mean? Well, basically, he can craft spells that help him do whatever he wants. Strange can break the laws of physics, modifying reality right before your very own eyes. Strange is famously known for opening portals that can connect two locations that would be separated otherwise. But this is far from the only thing that Dr. Stephen Strange can do. Thanks to his connection to the Vishanti, Doctor Strange can literally alter matter at a molecular level. No, he can't completely warp reality like Scarlet Witch or Billy Maximoff do. However, he can turn an object into another. We're talking small and big stuff here. For example, he transformed Christine's water into wine in the MCU. Well, okay, Doctor Strange's transmutation abilities surely have a limit, but the comics and the movies haven't really discussed this, so it's safe to say it's a very high one. In addition to transforming matter, Stephen can conjure objects. It seems as though he's bringing stuff out of thin air, but that isn't the case. Instead, he's summoning them from a different dimension. Do you remember that scene when he fills Thor's glass with beer? He's likely bringing the beer from a different dimension. This means he can just conjure objects. If he could actually just bring things out of nowhere rather than from another dimension, he would be unstoppable. Not to mention he could be rich. He could just conjure money every time he needed it. In the same way Strange can bring objects from other dimensions into his, he can also move things from this reality into a different one. More specifically, Strange has vanquished numerous creatures that pose a threat to Earth 616. The vanquishment of cosmic entities is sort of Doctor Strange's specialty, but there is a catch. Strange can only banish creatures whose magic is weaker than his own, so maybe it wouldn't be the solution for a creature like Pennywise. Well, Doctor Strange can't make things appear out of nothing. He can trick his enemies into thinking so because he's a master of illusions. By using some of his best spells, he can cause others to experience things that aren't really happening. We will go back to his psychic abilities in a little bit, but first, you should also know that Strange has a vast repertoire of spells. As the Sorcerer Supreme, Strange uses divine energy to perform tons of different magic. For example, he can unleash a mystical earth current with the whirling winds of Watum, he can summon lightning towards his enemies with the bolts of Balthak, and he can conjure fake clones of himself to confuse his enemies with images of Icon. Another key spell in Doctor Strange's arsenal is the Shield of Seraphim. This creates a protective barrier of mystical energy that can take even the strongest punches without breaking apart. That's just how powerful it actually is. Could Pennywise break that apart? Besides the many spells Strange can use to protect himself, he can also use the Eye of Agamotto in combat. This powerful talisman was a gift from the goddess of Earth. Eventually, it became a key element for all Sorcerer Supremes. With the Eye of Agamotto, Strange shoots energy blasts that are capable of destroying whole planets. This eye also serves as an arcane focus that allows Strange to control his own magic and that of his enemies. So he can manipulate attacks coming his way through this special artifact. As the Sorcerer Supreme, Strange also has excellent psionic skills. He can communicate with others and read minds as he is a powerful telepath. While he may not be as great a telepath as Jean Grey or Professor X, he has defeated other powerful telepaths like Moondragon and the Scarlet Witch. Additionally, Strange can use his mind to move things around without touching them, so he is a master of telekinesis. However, it's pretty rare for Steven to use his psionic abilities. Instead, Doctor Strange prefers to depend on the mystic arts in combat. Still, he should never be underestimated. While Strange can use magic to alter the world around him, he is also capable of using it to alter himself. The Sorcerer Supreme can astrally project at will, and contrary to other heroes who need to focus on a ritual to do it, he can do it instantaneously. While astral projecting, Steven doesn't need to sleep, eat, drink, or even breathe. Besides, physical laws don't affect him, which means he can go through walls, fly, or move at humanly impossible speeds. We could tell you that he can also fly, but this is honestly the least interesting part about Doctor Strange's abilities. In fact, he doesn't even do it that often, instead relying on the cape of levitation to travel. Whenever he has to get somewhere truly fast, Doctor Strange simply uses teleportation, as it's one of his many magical skills. Steven can teleport himself and his abilities to any place he wants, and this isn't just in Earth 616 we're talking about. He has shown time and time again that he can travel between dimensions. Since a significant part of his rogues gallery comes from the dark dimensions, he often goes into it without a problem. Overall, Strange has access to a bigger chunk of reality than most humans. Not only can he do magic, teleport through the universe, and use psychic abilities, but he also has cosmic awareness. This means that he can notice when something isn't as it should be in his reality. Of course, this isn't an instantaneous skill. Instead, it requires him to meditate, sensing all corners of the universe at the same time. This allows him to notice if extra-dimensional threats are on their way to mess with his reality. But of course, the superpower that truly sets Doctor Strange apart from other Avengers is his ability to manipulate time. Strange can stop time, slow time, or even reverse time as long as it's for just a couple of seconds. He has traveled through time himself, but this requires way more energy and concentration than anything else, so it isn't such a common occurrence. Did you know Doctor Strange even defeated Death? Just like the Ancient One did before, Steven challenged Death to a contest and won. Out of respect for his performance, Death granted him two incredible gifts. First, he practically lost his fear of dying, which was a big deterrent for Steven. Second, he received infinite longevity, which means he can still die in combat if wounded, but no known disease can kill him. Besides, he doesn't age. Since Steven defeated Death, his own demise may come only from without, in battle and not from within. The Ancient One lived 600 years, so the new Sorcerer Supreme could be looking at a couple of centuries as well. Even if his mystical powers aren't enough against a villain, Doctor Strange is more than his title as Sorcerer Supreme. Before gaining his powers, Steven was a famous neurosurgeon. Now that he's a superhero, he doesn't practice medicine for the general public. But he still has all the knowledge that turned him into a celebrity in his field in the first place. Given this, he's often a doctor for his peers. For example, he surgically implanted a device into Beast's palm using his knowledge in the New Avengers series, New Avengers number 3 from 2013. Of course, in order to be the Sorcerer Supreme, he had to become a master in magical knowledge and occultism. So Steven is basically the authority on both medicine and magic for the superhero community. While Doctor Strange is among the most powerful heroes of his kind, he has some weaknesses that Pennywise could easily exploit in combat against him. First and foremost, Strange mostly depends on his spells, which are often spoken incantations combined with gesturing. If his enemies gag and bind him, he won't have his magic. But additionally, Strange actually has something like a kryptonite. This element is called Mysterium, and it's an anti-magic metal that is completely immune to Doctor Strange's mystical arts. This metal doesn't hurt like kryptonite hurts Superman. However, it renders him powerless because none of his spells work on it. What if there was a whole suit of armor created with Mysterium? It would be Doctor Strange's ultimate demise. And finally, there is the fact that Stephen Strange is, after all, only human. Granted, his agreement with Death makes him less vulnerable than the average person. However, he can still be wounded. It's not like his skin is tougher or more resilient than that of other people. Pennywise the Clown, also known as It, may seem like the stuff of nightmares, but it isn't actually a supernatural phenomenon. Pennywise is actually an alien that arrived on Earth millions of years ago, more specifically around 1 million BCE. Driven by its need to survive on this planet, it started eating human children every 27 years, luring them with its shape-shifting abilities. Since Pennywise is basically a cosmic threat, it could easily be part of Doctor Strange's rogues gallery. But does this clown have what it takes to take down the Sorcerer Supreme? Pennywise's most important trait is that it can shapeshift into any form, both physical and real elements or even stuff from people's imaginations. This ability is not restricted by physical loss, which means Pennywise can shapeshift into different forms at the same time in multiple places. What's more, Pennywise can look like different beings to different victims, so he can frighten more than one person at the same time while targeting their specific fears. When Bill and Richie enter Niebalt's street house, Richie sees Pennywise as a werewolf, while Bill sees it as Pennywise. Even if someone manages to take away its shape-shifting abilities, this alien's original form is that of a big spider. That's already a terrifying sight. This spider's shape isn't exactly what it really looks like, but it's the best the human brain can comprehend. In actuality, Pennywise is an incomprehensible entity that looks a lot like an orange light combined with writhing hair and dangling strings. This is what Stephen King's lore knows as the deadlights. Just like Strange, Pennywise possesses telekinetic abilities, which it uses to spook its victims, moving stuff around or even making them float or fall without a reason, or simply behaving supernaturally. Of course, it can do way more than that. It can lock doors, make its victims float, or even control electronic devices. Telekinesis is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Pennywise's psionic abilities. This superpower means the clown can enter its victim's brain, sometimes going inside more than one person at the same time. This allows it to steal people's souls and trap them in a nightmare realm. When entering its victims' brains, it can connect to their emotions and memories to exploit them. To make matters worse, it's able to possess people as well. The lore doesn't exactly explain why, but Pennywise the Clown can also create illusions, which it mostly uses to frighten its victims. Things like blood on Beverly's bathroom or even Georgie's body walking towards the loser's club weren't this alien shape-shifting. Instead, it was using an illusion. The thing is that Pennywise's illusions are incredibly realistic. They can be touched and even smelled. It can turn itself invisible too. It's very common for it to hide from adults while frightening kids. The theory is that it can control who sees it, but others believe only people who know about its existence can perceive it. There's a saying in the books that Derry is it and it is Derry, and it shows. The clown can teleport to any location within the town, and it can also alter its weather as well as manipulate the plants and animals inside it. Considering that Pennywise wasn't born in Derry, its connection to this town is surprising. Even when it isn't using its psionic abilities, it is still an almost undefeatable creature. It possesses superhuman strength and superhuman speed. For example, it can tear human limbs. According to Bill, it can move faster than an express train. Let's be real, this creature is basically invulnerable. It can be hurt, but it heals quickly enough even when it's shot or pierced. The only way to defeat Pennywise for good is the Ritual of Chud. However, there are other ways in which he can be weakened. Since it feeds on fear, courage, willpower, and love are like poison for it. Another big weakness of the clown is its own arrogance. It underestimates mankind, so its plan tends not to be airtight. Since Dr. Strange is a great strategist, this could be lethal for the alien creature. This is a crossover far from becoming canon, but when it comes to the battle, who would win? At CBR, we think that Dr. Strange holds the decisive edge. Sure, Pennywise would have a blast frightening Steven with images of his own failure and his dead beloved ones, but here's the thing. It preys upon vulnerable minds, and Stephen Strange is one of the brightest minds in the Marvel Universe. Not only is Strange trained to resist psychological manipulation due to dealing with villains like Nightmare and Shuma-Gorath, but he was a smart man even before becoming a sorcerer. Pennywise would hit him with his worst fears upon meeting him, but Doctor Strange would be quick to realize these are just games. After all, Pennywise tends to go for kids. So would a full-grown adult fall for his illusions? Strange has always been quick on his feet. The Avenger would quickly pull out a couple of his trademark spells while turning invisible so it can't strike back. Once Pennywise is trapped, Strange would send him into the Dark Dimension. By doing this, Strange would doom Pennywise to fight for his survival against other creatures. Even worse, by severing the physical connection to this realm, Strange would pull it from Derry. Since the alien's connection to Derry is what keeps him alive, it would weaken with time inside the Dark Dimension, the Mirror Dimension, or anywhere to which Strange banished it. This means that it would eventually die in this other dimension. Now, if Strange prefers to actually kill Pennywise, he would need to perform the Ritual of Chud. Since this is basically a battle of wills and belief, the Avenger would win. I mean, if he can beat death, I think he can beat Pennywise. Strange is exactly the type of sorcerer who excels in such contests. So Pennywise would probably score some points against Steven by using his standard shock tactics. However, his main weapon, fear, would have very little advantage over the Sorcerer Supreme. Without this edge, Pennywise is nothing more than a cosmic parasite, and Strange has tons of experience with those. So at CBR today, we're declaring Doctor Strange the winner against Pennywise. Do you agree with this, or do you think it would find a way to take him down first? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, thanks for watching CBR.